All right, Kurt, I'm just going to ask you a couple of questions about your life at home, and I just want you to answer however it applies to you.
Alright.
Okay, so for grooming, would you say you ignore your personal appearance, you need total grooming care, or do you do daily grooming, or do you initiate grooming tasks and follow typical procedures to complete, um, or do you initiate and complete grooming without assistance?
I initiate incomplete grooming.
You initiate grooming tasks but neglect features that are not clearly visible?
Yes.
Okay. For dressing, are you dressed by your caregivers, or do you spontaneously alter the position of your body to assist with donning garments, or do you dress yourself and have gross errors in selection, or do you dress yourself and you may have minor errors, or do you select your own clothing and dress without error?
I'll definitely dress myself, but I will have minor errors sometimes.
Okay. Um, for bathing, do you not wash yourself?
I definitely wash myself.
Do you, okay. Or do you stand in the shower, and you may require physical support from one or two caregivers? Or do you bathe yourself using soap and a washcloth in a repetitive action? Or do you bathe in front of the body and no physical assistance is required? Or do you bathe without assistance using shampoo, deodorant, and other desirable toiletries?
What was the third one again?
The third one is you bathe yourself using soap and washcloth in a repetitive action.
I do that. That definitely applies to me.
Okay, so for this you may need to be reminded to bathe, or you may not bathe entire body unless given verbal or tactile direction.
Okay.
So for walking and exercising, do you walk, sit, stand, and change positions or transfer from bed to chair with physical guidance? Or are you aware of physical comfort, discomfort? Or do you initiate walking within a room to do a familiar activity? Or do you walk in familiar surroundings without getting lost and can be trained to follow an exercise program? Or do you go about new grounds or city and find ways home or follow a demonstration exercise program and learn requirements within 2 to 4 sessions?
What was the one that you said with familiar activity?
So that, do you initiate walking within a room to do familiar activity and maybe train to follow an exercise program after months of practice?
Yes.
Okay. For feeding, do you have intact oral bulbar function and chew and swallow voluntarily? Do you feed yourself with a spoon or non-slip or scoop edge plate when someone is present most of the time? Or do you use table utensils and open most standard food packages when food is presented by someone else? Or do you have everyday table manners and are consistent with social standards? Or do you consider the size of food portions and share a limited quantity of food with others?
What was the second one?
So you feed yourself with spoon or non-slip, or scoop edge plate when someone is present most of the time.
Yeah, I use non-slip.
Okay. For toileting, do you fail to control bowel or bladder and may require a mechanical lift for transfer? Or do you use the toilet inconsistently or when assisted by a caregiver? Or do you use the toilet or communicate need to defecate? Or do you care for yourself at a toilet completely, or care for self at toilet completely and locate an unfamiliar bathroom with little to no assistance?
I go to the bathroom by myself and I don't need any assistance.
Okay. For taking medication, do you swallow medication when pills or liquids are placed in your mouth? Or do you take medications or vitamins and but you don't obtain them yourself? They're placed in your hand by others? Or you take pills when directed or are located, when directed, go to the place where pills are located and pick up and swallow pills? Or do you initiate taking pills in simple dosages at routine times, such as with meals or medication time? Or are you responsible for taking routine medications in correct dosage at correct time? Or do you comply with new dosages, learn drug concepts, and anticipate drug effects and need for refills?
Could you read the second and third one again?
So you either take medications or vitamins and don't obtain them yourself. They're placed in your hand by others. Or you locate where the pills are distributed and you pick them up and swallow the pills yourself.
I think the third one applies to me.
Okay. And we have one more section. Hold on. So using adaptive equipment. Do you ignore adaptive equipment and don't do you ignore adaptive equipment and spontaneously cooperate with caregivers' efforts, or do you grasp adaptive equipment and approximate demonstrated use, or do you initiate repetitive actions with adaptive equipment such as walkers, wheelchairs, eating utensils, dressing aids, and transfer boards, or do you imitate use of adaptive equipment when actions are familiar and intended effect is clearly visible, or do you learn the use of adaptive equipment, or do you oh yeah, that's it.
I learned the use of adaptive equipment.
Okay.
Like I said before, I used the non-slip.
Oh, right. Okay. And that's it.